Hey, Anna, how you doing?
Good evening, all.
Evening, Kim. Should have the screen share ready to go.
Okay, I'll pull it up. I apologize if you guys can hear the baby crying in the background. He's just going to bed. He should be done shortly.
I don't hear anything.
Oh, good. I do. I hear it.
I had someone come up and tell me that in a restaurant. No one can hear your screaming baby right now as much as you can. Don't worry about it. I was like, I don't think that makes me feel better.
This is HCAM. We're ready to go out when you start.
All right, thank you, HCAM.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, Joe.
Kim, I had
Joe.
put an updated agenda in the folder.
Yep. Let me grab. I don't see it in the public meeting information file. Let me grab it from the agendas.
Oh, I just overwrote it in the public meeting folder, so it should be the one that's in there. That's weird.
Hey, Jeff and Kim.
Hey, Ted.
When I signed on, I got updates on Zoom and I can't seem to get my camera turned on. You're stuck with Biker Ted for now. But
All right,
I'll keep working on it.
problem.
Jeff, I do want to let you know in case you didn't catch my email, Trails has requested a continuance tonight.
Yep, I saw that, Kim. Thank you.
Got it figured out. I don't know why that didn't work. Of course, if you prefer Biker Ted, I can leave that up.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We have a quorum. We're still waiting on a couple members, but I'll get started. This is the January 24th, 2023 open meeting of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission being conducted remotely, consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The new law authorizes all members of a public body to continue participating in meetings remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location remains suspended. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the Conservation Commission agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting is also being broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Actually, all are in this case. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Supporting materials that have been provided to members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. This meeting will feature public comment after commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda. The chair will open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call of the members present. I will now confirm which commission members are present. Melissa Ricos,
Here.
Jim Cirillo,
Here.
Ted Barker Hook,
I'm present.
Ed Harrow,
Here.
Janine LeBlanc,
Here.
and this is Jeff Barnes, and Kerry will not be joining us tonight. I'll now confirm the staff that are present. Kim Chemikalai,
Here.
Anna Rogers,
Present.
and Joe Orzel with Lucas Environmental.
Here.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. So for folks on the call, we've had a couple continuations. So why don't we just highlight those now so that you're not sitting. If you were planning on listening in on one of the continuations, you're not sitting in. Waiting. So the 30 West Main Street, 0 Elm Street, and 0 West Main Street, the abbreviated notice, of resource area delineation has been continued to February 7th. The Legacy Farms North and South mitigation discussion has been continued to February 7th. And the trails, Kim, correct, is also continued to the 7th.
That's correct. Both the amended application and the new application for the offsite.
Right, so numbers 8 and 9 on the agenda under continued hearings. Okay. Okay. We'll start with work session items. So 19 Stony Brook Road, this was a certificate of compliance that was approved at the last meeting. So I just need a motion to have Kim sign the certificate of compliance on behalf of the members present.
I'll make that
issue it.
motion.
All
I'll make
right,
that motion.
Thank you, Ted. In a second,
Second, this is Ed.
And we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and Dom and I. All right. No draft minutes for review. 9 Cedar Street Extension, Masabni. This is a request for a 3-year extension permit. So Kim, do you want to give us a little bit of background on this, please?
Sure. So my computer is failing to open the photos right now. I'm sorry. This is a order for a single family home. And when we received the extension request for the last meeting, I had gone out to take a look at the site. And I found that the erosion controls needed some repairs because they had been sitting for a while. So I contacted the applicant and they made the repairs. Anna and I went out and re-inspected, and we are now happy with the results. So my updated recommendation would be to issue the extension.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions from commission members? Questions from the audience? Okay, if I can get a motion to approve the 3-year extension permit for 9 Cedar Street Extension, please.
So moved.
And a second, that was Janine.
I'll second.
All
Jim.
right, Jim, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and Dom and I. All right. 52 Cedar Street Extension, 35 Lincoln Street. This is the Turkey Ridge Estates cease and desist. Kim, would you care to give us a little bit of background on where we're at with this? I saw that there was a letter submitted to your behalf by you to Turkey Hill on the potential fines.
Yes, so the commission had discussed this site briefly at the last meeting. This is I believe it's a 9-unit subdivision in the north part of town. I had gone out on December 29th, I believe it was, and they had a blowout in their erosion controls, and sedimentation had washed out into the riverfront to the Sudbury River and the adjacent BVW. Anna and I have been out a number of subsequent instances since that point. The developer, I believe, is on the line tonight, so he's taken a number of steps to control some of the runoff at the site, including rough grading the 2 main detention areas. And these are some of the photos from the last time that Anna was out. So they've made a number of strides at the site with temporary BMPs, but there's still stormwater that's kind of actively flowing off of the site. The turbidity looks to be okay. You can kind of see it there. So, we're making a lot of strides, but a lot of the site still remains unsecured, unstabilized. And, the commission, the last time we spoke, had decided to kind of table the conversation to see how the site did in the last storm, in the upcoming storm. And I would report that it mostly held, but I would love to see, additional work. I think it's an ongoing process.
Right. Okay, thank you, Kim. Do we have the developer on site or on the call?
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yep, I'm here, Shane Perot from Turkey Ridge Estates.
How you doing, Mr. Perot? Can you?
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Can you kind of give us an update as to where you are, what work's going to be conducted, in the coming days, and where we are in regard to the installation of the permanent stormwater controls at the site?
Yep. So basically, since the last meeting, and since the breach, we've made it pretty much our sole plan to make sure that doesn't happen again. We went over in the last meeting all the different measures we made at the site, for soil stabilization and erosion control. management in the 6 days that we had from the breach. Since the last couple of weeks, since our meeting 2 weeks ago, we've continued, basically trying to manage all the water that's there and prep for, pond construction. I know Kim had some issues with some of the roads being unstabilized throughout the construction site. We had riprap delivered, and we installed riprap stone all throughout those construction areas so we could minimize any water runoff or tracking of mud up and down the hill. We edited the holding basin that we had. We created some emergency spillaways in case those got too full. The water would be able to be mitigated and spill into other holding areas. We created more riprap, basically check dams uphill, and we've constantly just been working as much as we can to mitigate that water. And we've implemented as we discussed last meeting, an internal inspection program. We walk the site that an erosion control line every day. We walk it in the morning, we walk in the afternoon. We've been monitoring the weather, and since 2 weeks ago, we've had, I think it's rained or snowed about 12 of the 14 days. We've again monitored our systems. Yes, there's water flowing through the erosion control, but it is clean. It has no sediment. Again, we're monitoring it daily. Beta came out today as well and did an inspection and provided a report to confirm that. We're doing everything we can to make sure, no turbid water or sediment breaches that, and it hasn't. And I think, it's been 2 weeks since the last meeting. I think we've made some major progress with the weather. I mean, obviously with the snow and the rain, it's very difficult to work at the site, but our plan is we have multiple excavators and machinery there and operators, and we're gonna be working full time until the pond construction is done. It's a little bit of a battle with the timing of the year, and especially the last 2 weeks with, multiple inches of rain and a couple major storms. We had one on the 13th and we had one on Sunday. Again, doing our inspections, we didn't see any breaches in the erosion control, and we just continue to work until we get these ponds built. But our main focus has been, the management of the stormwater and making sure, it doesn't breach again.
Okay, what's the schedule on the permanent basins? When are those going to be started? How long do you anticipate?
So over the last couple of weeks, we started bringing in some material. We've been bringing in, fill material for the sub basin, but we had to build a road to get in and out of the subdivision or in and out of the pond area so that we could not track mud up and down, and also so that, it would help mitigate some of the water runoff and slow and clean the water almost as a check dam. So we've been starting to basically fill the ponds to sub base, and we have retaining walls along the backside. So on Monday, we have our retaining wall contractor coming back to start all the retaining walls on the backside. So pretty much today and throughout the rest of the week, we're prepping all those areas so that we can construct those retaining walls, which is going to essentially hold up the back ends of the basins. I'm sure you guys have seen the plans, but basically the back of the basins are right up against the erosion control barrier. So those walls are actually what's supporting it. So again, we're starting that on Monday. Until then, we're going to be doing all the prep work. When we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, we figured, 4 to 6 weeks, and we're still on that timeline. We might have lost a week with the weather over the last couple of weeks, but within the next, 4 to 6 weeks, we should have this whole thing built and ready to go. Our plan is to, once the weather breaks in the spring, be able to roll into, house construction. So our schedule is pretty imminent that we're gonna, have this full infrastructure built, by middle of March for sure.
Okay. Yeah, so to Kim's point, the temporary basins that are there appear to be, almost at capacity, 70 or 80% in the photos. We had rain the past couple days. We have more rain on the way tomorrow and into Thursday. and then we have the spring coming, which is, typically a lot of rain as well. So, just I understand that the water coming off the site now is clear, which is a good thing. There shouldn't be any water running off the site at all, but the fact that it's clear is good. So just, keep in mind, as you're planning this, the schedule, that, we anticipate that there's going to be more rain, and we just don't want to see any more issues at the site. And at that, I'll keep my mouth closed and open it up to the other commission members.
The chair.
Yes, Kim, sorry.
Shane, I was just wondering, you had stated that Goddard was going to prepare a restoration plan for the impacted area. I was just wondering when we can anticipate.
Yep, yeah, I
receiving
forgot to
that.
mention that we also, obviously, we want to do every measure we can here. We hired Goddard to basically be our consultant to consult the construction and the maintenance of the erosion controls, and also they're preparing a mitigation plan, and also going to be doing monitoring of the removal. And Andrew, I believe, is on the call. Andrew, do you want to kind of fill them in where we stand? I know the snow hasn't helped us, the monitoring the last couple weeks, but you want to just give them an update?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to jump on now. So I had called into the last meeting as well. Once we were kind of brought onto the project to start talking about this. As of now, Goddard is officially on the project. We are moving forward now. So that plan is coming. I will have that done within a week maximum. I plan to get that to Kim prior to the next meeting so she can review, comment, and we can approve something to get this out of there. So up next for Goddard, obviously we were going to be visiting the site at the beginning of this week. The snow pushed us back. We plan to go out there. We want to measure the depths of the sediment plumes to provide kind of an area specific removal plan. Typically for these areas, it's done by hand only, and we assess based on the depth of the sediment, whether removing just the thinnest layer, if that's going to be beneficial to the area. As far as disturbance, anything that we deem, a quarter of an inch and more has to be removed due to the impacts that it could cause to the revegetation of the ground cover in the spring. So the way that Goddard's looking at this now is the area appears to be stabilized. We know where the plume is. As soon as that the area is exposed enough for us to get out there and measure, we're going to have a plan specific to that area. So in our opinion, I think that everything is under control. I think the applicants are making a lot of strides on the site and are continuing to do so. And we're right there with them. So I would ask, I saw the fines that were drafted up today. I would ask the commission to consider, the progress that has been made so far, with the understanding that that plan will be coming within a week to review.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the update. Okay. Any questions, comments from commission members? Questions or comments from the audience on the site? Okay. All right. We appreciate the update and the activity, and kind of mitigation that is taking place. So let's just kind of stay on top of this and try to get those permanent stormwater infrastructure pieces, in place as soon as possible.
Mhm.
And
Jeff, can I ask one thing?
yeah, absolutely.
You just made me think
Melissa.
when you said permanent structures in place. So when these are built out, the walls are built, is it going down to final grade? Are there measures going to be in place? Because they're really temporary sediment basins until the site's stabilized, and then they become permanent. We just want to protect those subsoils to make sure they function in the future.
Yeah, that's all in our plans and our
Okay.
construction. We're leaving it 6 inches lower, and then we'll, like you said, as a temporary, but
Okay.
once we're ready for final, we'll have Beta come out, do final inspections, and then do our final grade.
Okay, all right, so we'll, Kim just put this violation and fines letter together today. So, you guys can take a look at that. Let us know if there are any questions. I recommend, as I think Kim does, that we, hold these in abeyance for the time being, to see how, how the progression goes with the site. And, if we have any continuing issues going forward, then, we can assess the fines that are outlined here, as well as potentially new fines. But for now, I would just like someone to make a motion to, hold the fines in the amount of $29,100 in abeyance.
Can I make one comment before making that motion? Is it
That's-
9 days or 12 days? Because the wording says 9.
Oh, good catch there, Janine. Yep. On the first bullet there, Kim.
Good call. I can fix that. Sorry.
Okay.
It's 12.
Okay, thank you, sorry. So I will make that motion.
All right, and a second.
I'll second. It's Melissa.
All right, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay, let's, what time do we have? 7:20, so let's move on to the new hearings. So this is an RDA, request for determination of applicability for a septic system for 4 Curtis Road. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 at 7:00 PM virtually online to hear all persons interested in request for determination of applicability filed by Edward Daly to construct a replacement septic system with associated site work. The location 4 Curtis Road, Assessors Map U13, Block 35, Lot 0. Okay, do we have someone on the line for the applicant?
Dan McIntyre representing Ed Daly.
Good evening, Mr. McIntyre.
Good evening. So Mr. Daly is in the process of readying his home for sale, and he needed to replace his septic system. And we were retained to design a new one. Plan is on the screen. To the right is Curtis Road. We had a wetlands delineated by Goddard Consultant in the rear of the property. The existing septic system is also in the back of the property, about where that temporary stockpile is located. We did some soil testing out there with the Board of Health and determined that really the front yard is the better location for the septic system based on groundwater and soil conditions. It's typically what's been happening on all the homes on Curtis Road on this side. But due to the wetlands in the back, the new systems are being shifted to the front. So the bulk of the system, the leaching area, is outside the 100-foot buffer. The tank obviously is staying in the back because we had no way to redo the plumbing in the basement. So we need to tie on the existing plumbing into a new septic tank. And then we're going down into a secondary tank with a pump in it by the side of the house, and then pump up to the leach field in the front yard. Board of Health has reviewed it and approved the plan. We put erosion controls around all the disturbed areas. And this plan shows the recommendation by Lucas to extend it further up to Curtis Road to trap any sediment going onto the abutters property and partially onto Curtis Road. And we also show the temporary stockpile locations. We suspected there'll be 3, 2 small ones near the 2 tank excavations and a larger one up in the front yard outside the buffer zone for the leaching field excavation. In order to put the leach field in the front, we'll also be relocating the water supply. Curtis Road is on town water. We're going to be relocating the water service around the septic system to the home. And when complete, we'll restore everything with grass as it is now. And I think with that, I can turn over to questions.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. So Joe, did you have any additional comments? It looks like 2 of them were addressed, the extension of the erosion controls towards Curtis and the temporary stockpile locations. Was there anything else?
Not really. I think they were addressed pretty well. I just had the initial comment on the observation of hydric soils well up gradient of a couple of those wetland flags, G6 and G9, roughly 28 feet. But as was noted in the response, the buffer zone is controlled by flag GC2 area, which I thought was very close to the appropriate location.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joe. Questions or comments from the commission?
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask the homeowner, the PIBs, the proposed PIBs, can those be moved to the fence? I understood that the lawn was the limit of the fence.
Yeah, I did talk to the homeowner this afternoon and would be happy to move those to the fence if that's the commission's preference.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Kim. Okay, so no questions from the commission, questions, comments from the audience? And just raise your hand. See anyone with a question? Okay, if I can get a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for the RDA as discussed,
Ted will make that motion.
and a second, please.
This is Ed, I'll second.
All right, and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, thank you, Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. Okay, moving along to continued hearing, 7 Whalen Road. This is a continuation of a notice of intent. And it's Mr. Prasad. Do we have someone on? Good evening.
Marco down here.
Hey, Mr. Markonot.
Evening. Abhishek Prasad is also on the call, and I thought I'd lead off and maybe summarize the changes we've made since we met last 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
I thought I'd kind of use Lucas Environmental's memo as kind of a guide as to how to proceed with the changes that we've made. I guess chief among those was the recommendation that the BVW limit on the easterly side and the back be altered based on Joe's findings. And we have done that based on the guidance contained in that. We moved flag number 3, flag number 6, and flag number 7, and generally the locations highlighted in that memo. The blue line that you see on this plan was the original, the filleted circles, the solid black line. That's our interpretation of the memo from Lucas. So that changes some of the issues with regard to offsets to the 50 and 100 foot buffer. So as a result, we've kind of taken a look at that budroom addition and limited that size to try to maintain 50-foot offset to the location that you see here on this plan. Moving on to item number 2 in that memo, it talks about the condition of the site in general, and then what could be offered for mitigation. The 2 sheds at the rear predate Abhishek's ownership. They came with the parcel. So we prefer to leave them as is, not an issue of his creation, if you will. But we do appreciate the fact that the line has changed. And what we'd like the commission to consider is the installation of 5 shrubs along that new line to try to mitigate the changes over time. That is lawn now up to the stream channel. And then northerly, there's a tree line behind the shrub, behind the shed. But the rest of it is maintained lawn. Abhishek is willing to plant the shrubs we highlight and then allow that area easterly of the line to revegetate naturally. There was a discussion, some confusion about which trees were coming down. We had highlighted 3 trees along the southerly boundary line with Chandra Gudam. But several other trees were highlighted by Abhishek in discussions with a tree company, with an arborist for a tree removal firm. So we've gone back and highlighted on this plan the locations of all the trees with the X's out there at the site. Laying all our cards on the table, those are all the trees that we would like to remove. Some are in poor shape, some interfere with the construction of the garage, and some raise issues, concerns regarding the health of the family members. So all those trees we propose to take out. The 2 in front of the home, directly in front, we are proposing to replace with a couple of cherry trees that we highlight the type and species on this plan. So we've got some mitigation we want to do to offset some of the changes to the site. Some will, the trees will be removed, will be cut, removed against the northerly side, against the common line with Dowling. Those trees would be allowed to decay naturally. The stumps will be left behind. The 2 in the front against Wayland Road, we'll grind those stumps and lumen seed that area. And along the southerly side, those trees will be ground, and then the mulch spread. There's already a couple of landscape beds in that location. The remaining byproduct of the grinding process will be used as mulch to stabilize that area. And the only other area worth mentioning is the maple tree in the rear yard. It was the subject of a review by the commission in 2018, and permission was granted to remove that maple tree at the rear. So that was kind of, in our minds, covered by a previous iteration of this board. And then I guess a couple other items that were in there. Our access to the work site will be down the existing driveway to the south. We have a septic system directly in front of the home that we do not want to damage in any way. We have highlighted a temporary stockpile area in the front on the plan, but our access will be down the driveway for as much of the work as we can entertain. And then the only other issue that was outstanding from last time is DEP has issued a file number for the project.
Okay. All right. All right, Joe, do you want to just jump in here to that summation, cover your the items that you had identified in your memo?
Yeah, I think things were addressed. I guess the only question I would have for the commission to consider is whether planting of a few shrubs along the edge of the wetland is sufficient, and the location of the PIB markers, because it looks like there's going to be lawn between the PIB markers, maintained lawn between the PIB markers and the wetland, the way I understand it.
Yep. So that's, my thinking is kind of along those same lines, just letting that small area kind of regrow, and planting 3 shrubs in my view doesn't seem like sufficient mitigation. Also I'm a little bit, questioning why we need to remove all these trees. Are they diseased, Mr. Marconon, or damaged in any way, or is it just they want to get rid of the trees?
The trees along the southerly boundary line, they feel will be impacted by the construction. A couple of those photos, you could see that the tree canopy hangs over into the garage location. So they will be damaged. They will interfere with the construction. The pines create an issue for Abhishek's daughter. I believe there's an allergy and some concerns about the tree pollen. And a couple, I think were identified by the arborist as damaged beyond, beyond repair, if you will. Little out of my area. I'm relying on the information provided by that individual.
Okay,
They feel like it's a combination of there'll be an issue for the family, there'll be an issue for construction.
okay. I mean, just looking at the backyard there, removing a few trees isn't gonna eliminate the pollen problem, but let me open it up to the other commission members for their questions and comments.
Hi, Jeff, this is Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Just want to say, if they, the trees that are diseased or at risk, I understand that, but pollen, I don't understand because there was pollen there when the applicant purchased the property and pollen everywhere. So I would not cut a healthy tree down just because of a pollen allergy. Sorry. That's it. I'm out.
To the
Right.
chair, this is Abhishek.
Yes, sir.
So when I purchased a property, my wife and I moved in, our daughter was born here. So, I understand, the commission member saying that the trees were there when we purchased the property, but the daughter wasn't, right? And since she's now 8 and she's been experiencing with the allergies since she was 2. So, I would really, appreciate the commission's consideration, with what she is going through. So I understand, we are surrounded by trees here in Hopkinton, but some of these things, some of these pine trees have really caused a lot of pain and suffering for her. And she has had to, take time off from school and with COVID hitting. So, there's
Okay.
really been,
Yeah, we got it. All right, thank you, sir.
a struggle with her.
Okay. All right, just questions, comments from commission members?
I just have a thought, Jeff. I kind of look at the stream in the back, similar to the concept that we are encouraging around the Lake Maspinock, and buffers to, what our water bodies and our streams are more helpful than anything else. So I mean, I would encourage some sort of more of a buffer type planting along the stream would be more helpful than anything else, I think, on this particular site. I'm not sure. So we're saying that the trees that are coming down are the ones with the little X's. It's like the cloud with the X. Is that right? Or is it the ones that say R and D?
R&D, remove and dispose of.
So it's all the trees that are shown.
It looks that way. Melissa.
I believe I counted 10.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
I said this last time, and I will echo Jim's opinion that removal of the trees on the property probably will not have a correcting on their daughter's allergies, and I sympathize greatly. But I'll let all that go and ask that the plantings that are put in, that they be native species, not hybrids.
Okay, any other comments from commission members?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes. Jean.
So I know there was talk of 5 shrubs. Could we get non-pine trees in exchange for the pines that are getting cut, or for at least some of them?
In the mitigation area, Janine, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
In the back of the property there?
I think we usually, I guess more specifically, usually we say 1-to-1, right? Number of trees coming down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has been calculated. There's 10 coming down. I'm not sure how many are healthy versus dead. Are there 5 healthy ones and 5 dead ones? I guess that's,
Yeah, Kim, did we get a copy of the report from the arborist?
I have not received a copy of that report.
You have not received it?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, I think at a minimum, that's typically what the commission asks for is the healthy tree get definitely at least replace
To the chair,
the
this is,
healthy tree. within-
Yes, hold on a second, sir. Yep, go ahead, Melissa.
No, I mean, I think that's pretty standard from the commission that if a healthy tree's being taken down, it gets replaced.
Right.
So I'm just not sure how many are healthy, that would fall into that category that we would, just, that would be our standard recommendation or approval.
Okay.
To the chair,
Yes, Mr. Mark Ronat.
Kim, work order 1626 did not come through in the info provided.
Oh, I am wrong. I apologize, Joe. I do know, is this from an arborist or is this the tree contractor?
this is, Mark Mazur is the arborist, Kim, and the tree contract.
Okay, so it does look like he did an evaluation. If he could send over this report with his stamp on it, just so we can verify that he is a certified arborist, that would be wonderful. We do usually look for the arborist versus just the contractors kind of quote.
Okay. So I
Okay,
think,
Chair.
sorry, Kim, to interrupt. Did you have something else?
No, I had a quick question for Kim. Is it typical that our arborist opinion is the same as the person who then profits by cutting down trees?
No, I'm not aware of an arborist in town. Excuse me, I'm not aware of a tree company in town that has an on-staff arborist at this point. This is an issue that's come up on a different site that we're going to see in a few weeks. So if this service does have an arborist, it will be the first one that I'm aware of. But
It strikes me as a conflict of interest to provide honest assessments of tree health if you make more money, if you can say this tree is not healthy and needs to come down.
yeah, I mean, they do have, their certification that they're required to keep up with and that they certify a certain ethics code. I'm not sure if there's anything else that we can,
Okay.
how far we can go. You know what I mean? We typically don't accept just quotes, if that does make you feel any better.
Okay.
I think the one thing I'm just seeing on here, the numbers. So it says several trees are either dead, but I don't see like a number or specifically which trees. Which I think is important if we're applying our typical healthy tree gets replanted.
To the chair, this is.
Yes,
Chair.
sir.
If you
Yep.
see on the top of that section that is being read through right now, it says tree taken down with recycling, right side driveway in the backyard, number 9. And it talks about what are the species of the different trees that are part of that 9 total trees. So hopefully that gives you the number.
So it's saying that all 9 of those trees are either dead or in health decline?
That is correct.
Then why didn't he write all trees are either dead?
Yeah, I think we need this to be a little bit more specific. Number one. Number two, the 3 for the mitigation area in the back, letting that revegetate naturally is good. I'm not sure 3 shrubs or 5 shrubs, whatever was proposed, is sufficient. I'll defer to Kim and Joe on that. And to Melissa's point, if we could get more specificity into, what trees that are proposed to be removed are dead and which ones are live. Typically we require the live ones to be replaced 1-to-1. We can move those potentially to the back of the site. If there's concerns about health issues with the daughter. But those are kind of the areas I think, Joe, that we need a little bit more clarity on. And Kim, does that cover everything?
Just that the quote should be updated with the arborist's signature and stamp, the certified arborist.
Jeff, may I ask one more tree question?
Sure.
Kim, could you do me a favor, please, and trace the southerly BVW boundary? Like from where does it keep going to the west? It disappears out that way somewhere? Like, where is the BVW just south of the proposed addition? Is it
Joe, do you have
where-
any insights on that?
Yeah, through the chair. So from wetland flag 1, it roughly continues more down to the south.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But then I'm following the 50-foot minimum. Here's what I'm getting to is I think the proposal, let's pretend that we allowed all trees to be chopped down. And then isn't the proposal to grind all of the stumps? I don't know if I'm comfortable grinding stumps inside of the 50-foot buffer zone area. And I'm trying to figure out where that is alongside the proposed addition. Or any other spot.
The hope was to stabilize the area. And the suggestion following the guidance in 2018 was to either mulch the areas or lumen seed. So the maple tree along the easterly boundary line near flag number 8, that area made sense to lumen seed as it was lawn. But the one tree inside the 50-foot buffer and then the others inside the 100 southerly of the garage are already in a landscape bed full of mulch materials. It made sense to grind those and spread that mulch in that location in keeping with the treatment that was already there.
Yeah.
I think grinding them to grade is fine, as long as they're not being dug up and grubbed. Kim, Joe, would you agree with that? I mean, I don't think it's going to have any detrimental impact to the buffers if it's ground down to grade, so to speak.
I think I can handle grind down to grade. I was picturing in my head kind of digging into the ground with a grinder. I think I'm okay with grind to grade.
Yeah, through the chair, the roots are remaining. So I think if it's ground down to the grade, that's
okay.
That's okay. Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from the audience? All right. So we'll just continue this out to the next meeting. So we can get these last few items buttoned up. And if I can, let me just scroll through. I don't see any questions. If I can get a motion to continue the hearing to February 7th.
So moved.
And a second.
Ted will second.
And we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along. Select Energy, 90 Hayden Rose Street. This is a continuation of a request for determination of applicability for solar canopies over bus parking. Do we have someone from Select on the call?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. This is Stuart Clark with Green Seal Environmental, representing Select Energy Development.
Okay, good evening, sir. Joe, did you want to walk through your comments on this, if there were any?
Yeah, I didn't really have too much for comments. The wetland delineation was previously approved through an order of conditions. I checked on a few of the flags that were remaining in the field. They looked like they still remain accurate. I did note that there was an area, a wet swale at the base of the slope along Loop Road. I also noted that that was pointed out during the notice of intent process for the construction of the parking lot. And it appears was determined to be non-jurisdictional as a stormwater feature.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it for my review on those.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So it looks like this work is all being conducted in the paved areas of the parking lot. That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, questions or comments from the commission? Questions or comments from the audience? Let me just scroll through here. I don't see any hands up. Okay, if I can get a motion to issue a negative determination for the request for determination of applicability for Select Energy 90 Hayden Row.
Ted will make that motion.
And a second.
I'll second, Melissa.
And thank you, Melissa. We'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
All right.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
Yep, have a good evening. The motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Moving right along, we're making good progress. Mass laborers training. There are 3 hearings. The notice of intent continued for the pond. The notice of intent continued for the Clinton Street right away. And the notice of intent for the gas line, there's actually 4 hearings, excuse me. And then there's a notice of intent for the fire suppression line. All right, do we have the applicant on the call? Good evening, Mr. Connors.
Good evening.
All right, you want to give us an overview of where we are today?
Sure. Can I share screen?
Yes, you may.
Where am I? I'm trying to find it. All right, I'd like to start. I'm not able to move that. You hear me?
Yeah, you should have control over it.
Not able to move it.
I think that's an issue on your end, Mr. Connors.
Hey,
Mouse is moving. Point
oh,
up.
here we go. I gotta move this. And put that. All right. First, like to start with the overview of the project with this as the alternatives. If you see, we have Clinton Street along here with Front Street up at the top of the plan. The existing gas is on Front Street. And then the labor site is got some frontage along this location here. Those are a couple little puddles. They have some frontage along Front Street. They have access out on Laurel Canyon. They have frontage along North Mill and East Street, and then Clinton Street again in here and in here. So getting into the campus proper, which is what I call where the buildings are currently being built. In other words, areas that have been disturbed, if you will, or are currently parts of the campus and not natural wooded areas. I call the campus proper. Then we have an area from the Maloney building, which is up on the hill, going back through here, through this rear section of the property, which is the undeveloped portion of the property. So we have some access options to get into the campus proper where we want the gas to service these buildings. And the one we chose was coming in through the property's frontage along Clinton Street and through the woods to the Maloney Building and then into the campus proper where there's existing driveways and buildings being constructed, all of which have had notices of intent, notices of conditions, and they're currently under work. There's another one we talked about at one point in time that's in Clinton Street, just before Cold Springs Brook, which is right here. And that was talked about, and we indicated that there's vernal pools and some large wetland complexes in that location. And there would be a large wetland complex and buffer zone disturbance at that location. We looked at another one, which is just beyond the Cold Springs Brook and coming in to the site where the existing building, 20 building, is over at the pond. And there's a wetland complex in there, which we've given you some information on. It's the widest wetland complex of all. And that one would increase the amount of disturbance versus this particular one. The other option was to come down East Street, all of Clinton Street and East Street into the property, and then, of course, distribute throughout the site for the individual buildings. We talked about that being both costly and having a large impact with the street trees along East Street, which is a scenic road. The arborist has given you a report on what damage would be occurred in that particular location. We also would have a directional drilling operation under the culvert at this particular place on Clinton Street. We have walked that a little bit and determined that there's a couple of areas where we may encounter some ledge. If you were to go down that street, you could see some slopes that are fairly steep off to the south side of the road, and anticipate some ledge in there. We give you a construction schedule for the N-Star, which, I'm sorry, Eversource, which would indicate that would be on Clinton Street and East Street for a very long time, impacting traffic. So this particular location that we've proposed and designed is the one that we want to pursue. Now, the gas lines coming into the property and serving it do a couple of things. They give us a better, cleaner energy source for the heating and water and hot water and all that sort of thing for the building. They also give us a better opportunity to eliminate a lot of individual pump stations for fire protection. We have to deliver water at a fairly high rate, and each individual building, based on the previous NOIs and work we've done with the fire department, required a on-site pump station with a huge tank in the ground so that we could have the adequate volume of water to for fire suppression. They each individually had their own pumps, and they would fire up and operate for a exercise period each week. We're eliminating all those. We're eliminating several underground storage tanks for those. And with the gas line, we'd also be eliminating underground storage tanks for the heating systems of the existing buildings and for the heating systems for the new buildings. So in terms of going to gas, we think that this is certainly the better way to do it. And it does help to help the environment, we believe, and it eliminates tanks, which we are in the process of either going to have to replace because of their life expectancy. We've had one already removed. The other aspect of this is the laborers bought some land from about this point back several years ago. And that particular piece of land has been now dedicated for a little bit of a water supply, which eliminates a whole lot of individual wells at each building. And as wells at each building are public water supplies, they have impacts beyond the property with respect to radiuses. This particular one has been approved by DEP for the entire campus. So that plus the wetland complexes you see up here pretty much leave that whole back section as something that really is not going to be developed in the future. So what we're coming through on this particular line into the campus proper is a fairly long section of pipe, and it's a 25-foot wide opening that we will restore back to 10 feet. I had indicated in some of the submittal the machinery that would be needed to operate in that area to get this gas line in. For the trench alone, there'd be a backhoe that would dig the trench. And then you'd have to sand bed the pipe. And the smallest machine we could reasonably see coming in there is a skid steer, which will be about 16 feet long. We have a trench with oils on one side, and then of course the trench. And then on the other side, the machine coming in with sand to bed the pipe. And a gas pipe is fused, so we also need that area as an area to put up our machinery to fuse the gas pipe and lay it in long sections and then laid into the trench. So I think I've demonstrated the real need for the 25 feet, although we're coming back down to 10 feet when we're finished, and that will be. We had Goddard do a inspection of the site relative to the habitat, and they have provided a diagram and outline of additional habitat improvements for this if it were to be built, and that has been submitted to you a little while ago with comments, and I think they've addressed them. When we get down to the campus proper, I will say that all this area in here is previously disturbed. We've had driveways that go around the pond and paved driveways that go up to these buildings. We have an area down in here where we're building a contractor training thing where they'll have backhoes inside a building digging holes and setting manholes. And that was an order of conditions. So the areas that are being impacted in the campus proper are already disturbed. There's no new disturbances in those areas. And the pipelines coming through, wherever they're coming through, are in areas that are regulated under your 50 and 100-foot buffer, but they don't change anything on the surface of the ground. We are drilling underneath the culvert on our property to get to these buildings. That directional drilling had taken place for electric communications, water, and sewer. We put in a new sewer system up in this area here not too long ago under an order of conditions. And the actual drilling, the horizontal directional drilling for that culvert crossing took 10 hours for all four of them. It sat in the middle of the gravel driveway and it pushed the pipes through. And the trench on the other side was excavated to pull them out. I've given you some photographs from that particular operation demonstrating how it is. So we are planning that same sort of operation for this gas line as it crosses here. In and it'll feed these buildings. Here it'll cross in, then feed the headquarters, the Koya, and I'm sorry, the Conti and the Koya buildings. And those are areas that are well outside of the resource areas. So in terms of the gas line coming through, I think we've demonstrated that this is the most optimum location for it to come through. It has, we feel, is minimal impact in an area that will revegetate itself and have some additional enhancements. I'd like to go to some other drawings now of, actually, I want to stay on this for one more minute. We also have your first listed hearing is a pond over here that we talked about dredging. We filed a notice of intent for that about 1.5 years ago, and we've been holding that in abeyance. The fire department required us to dredge that as a additional source of water. It was a fire pond. It had been a fire pond for many years. It's not very deep. It's kind of kind of poor water quality, geese and things there. We've demonstrated that there are fish in that. It's not a vernal pool. And we've done some soils analysis and depth analysis this past winter, a year ago, and determined that its volume is very, very small. And it probably is not the best thing to pursue that notice of intent for dredging that pond, leaving it as it is. We had a driveway coming in and the various draft lines for it when it was a long time ago. This particular pond down here has been used as a fire pond and has draft lines on this end. So what we looked at this, it's got millions of gallons of water. It's 15 feet deep in the middle. Provided you with that mapping of the bottom of it. And the fire department we've talked with and their fire consultant to determine that this would be a much better source of water. It's very clean, clear water. It's been there for about 20, 30 years. And we would, having experience with the draft lines on the other side, which the fire department checks every fall, we would put a draft line over here and a draft line in here for the water supply. That draft line would also come out to East Street and replace the water supply with a better water supply and eliminate the necessity of this pond, which doesn't have a lot of volume. I'd like to go to that diagram of the pond while we're on it. Is that refreshing? All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so this is the new headquarters. Here's the new headquarters building, which you approved not too long ago. It's under construction. That's the Koya building at the pond. This is our pond. It's the deepest portion right there. We have a paved driveway apron that comes in here. There's been a generator in this location for years. Our underground storage for oil for the fire. So in this particular location, we've chosen that for our new fire pump that would service the entire campus and East Street. We'll get to the drawing for that in a minute, but what I wanted to do is show you that these are our traveled ways that come around the site. And this was our culvert, a double box culvert that we penetrated underneath with the horizontal directional drilling. So that gas line and the water line, which will be in another drawing, will be in the same particular location. And again, it was fairly easy to accomplish at that time. Onto that actual pump station.
So the fire suppression line will basically be co-located in the same trench area as the gas line in the campus proper area. Is that correct, Mr. Connors?
That's correct. And there are 4 other pipelines under that culvert.
Okay.
One for electricity, one for telephone, one for our sewer system, which connects all the buildings into one particular location, and one for our new potable water supply for the entire campus. So again, the Koya building, the pond is here. This is about a 20 by 30 foot pad with a small little building on the top of it. It will have a very deep wet well into the ground where the pipe will enter into the pond in this particular location. And it will be a draft line that will be able to be operated automatically if a fire system requires it in the buildings. Additionally, it will be available to pump water into the water line that will go out to the edge of East Street. And it will also have as another opportunity, a draft line coming in here from the edge in case the fire department simply wants to charge this line from their own pumper truck. Maybe there's a power failure, maybe it's something that doesn't operate there, so this is simply a backup that they want. In terms of the work in the campus proper, I think you've seen, actually Ted, I think Ted and I were the ones that walked the site back a year or so ago. And all this work takes place in the campus proper, as I call it, in areas that have previously been disturbed. So that leaves us back to our gas line coming through the woods. As you know, there's one section that comes down Clinton Street. That starts at Front. I want to go. Here, I'm going to reduce that. As Clinton Street, we have Front Street just up the top of the plan. But as we come down Clinton Street, we have a little bit of a wetland complex that's right along the edge of the street. And we have another one that's right along the edge of the street. And we get into where we go into the property. Continue this here, there, and this is where we go into the property, those little open depressions that were, I think they were formerly houses or some kind of construction at the time, torn down. The laborers have acquired that property. But we've given you diagrams of the pipeline depth, which is about at the elevation of the water, the top of the wetlands at that location. And this particular section of road is almost dead level at elevation 202. We don't anticipate any dewatering of these little wetland complexes. Gave you some diagrams of the water line or the gas line as it comes in the property past these two little depressions. I told you some sort of houses or something like that at the time. That pipeline comes in along there. It is well above the low portions of these. I don't think they hold water for a long enough period of time in the springtime. Nevertheless, we are above that. And then we start talking about this particular gas pipeline that goes through the property. We made a little bit of a change in this location to bring it out further away from the corner. And then we come along here, but you can see in green, these are the wetland complexes. And then there's the 50 and 100-foot buffer. The majority of our work is in the 50 to 100-foot buffer as we come along, not really in the wetland complex at all. Until we get down to this particular location, that's at the bottom, I call it a ravine, and it's a fairly small little area of wetland crossing. It's an ephemeral ditch that comes through here. It does flow when it's heavy rain. I was out there not too long ago. It was dry. We think that that's a kind of a minimal crossing. We're happy to put a little swamp mat over it if that's a problem, but we believe that that is the minimal impact that we could have to an actual resource on the site. Then just a little bit beyond here, we're at the Maloney, what is it? We're at the Maloney building. That's the slope beside the Maloney building. It's right about there. Go to that drawing in just a second. But as you can see, there's really minimal impacts to actual resources areas, and we're staying away from them, and they'll remain pretty much as they are today. We have added a lot of additional habitat evaluation and bird boxes and things as specified in Goddard's report. This is a diagram of the actual gas line with various elevations. And as I said, that's the crossing, and that's the corner of the Maroney building there, which brings us into the campus proper. that shows up right here. Now at this particular location, we're in where they've already have infrastructure and buildings and things of that nature.
Right, that's all previously disturbed area.
Yeah.
After that, yeah, okay.
Get out of here.
Okay. All right, so just so I'm clear, the continuation for the pond portion, 188-1741, we're tabling that particular filing pending the outcome of the other three, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, got it. Yep. Okay, and then when was the habitat evaluation submitted?
I think it was about 4 weeks ago.
Okay, and did that have the planting plan in it for
It did. Yeah, it did. It was, had some small type, and Vito yesterday, I think, increased it in size.
He increased it yesterday?
Yeah, in response to a question or a comment.
All right, so we don't have that yet.
Yeah, you should have it, but however Goddard put it together, they have very small type. I can make this a 2x3 foot sheet if you want, and it'll be to you tomorrow. But I think Vito sent something, and I'm not sure that it's huge.
Okay,
That was
got it.
yesterday afternoon.
All right, so Joe, did you want to just walk through your comments that I think this addresses a lot of what you had outlined in your letter? You know, the habitat evaluation was one of the big ones that we were looking for. Yeah, so the alternatives analysis, the cross-section of the wetland crossing, the cross-sectional view. But Joe, can you jump in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I
Thanks.
think I haven't had a chance to, look at the new material in detail, but from what I've seen, I think many of the comments have been addressed. Just quickly, I just wanted to note, it's kind of a minor item, but the first comment that we had submitted, that there's no overhead provided, for the record. As far as I know, there still hasn't been one. Maybe I'm missing it, but that still remains. And
What was that, Joe? Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, a copy of the ORAD for the record.
Oh, the ORAD, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
And as you had noted, cross-section figures have been provided. They did do a plan view for the small wetland crossing that's proposed. The commission may want to see a cross-section plan detail there also. It's not a big area, but the detail helps as far as when restoring and making sure it's restored properly. As you had noted, the habitat evaluation has been submitted and addressed. It does not include at this point an invasive species management plan, but states that the applicant is committed to developing one. Let's see. As you had noted, also, there's been additional information on alternatives analysis. Some of the numbers on the forms have been updated. I guess I had a quick question on riverfront area shown on Form 3. Is the riverfront area, is the work in the riverfront area that's proposed all within existing gravel and drive and paved ways?
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. I just hadn't heard that specifically. I wanted to verify that.
Whatever is campus proper, which is where the river comes through, is PM captured that, is all disturbed.
Well, disturbed, but also consisting of gravel or paved roads or drives.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's going through a gravel or paved drive, it would be able to be considered as an exempted activity.
Correct. Although we've tabulated that in.
Right. So then that was going to be another question as far as your tabulation, whether it includes all work within a roofront area or only things that you feel are not exempted.
Well, I feel that it's all exempted because of what we just talked about.
Okay.
I'm not sure I read you your local code to say that.
And
Mood issue. It's a mood issue.
I think that that more or less covers my questions.
All right, thank you, Joe. Let me open it up to questions from commission members.
Through the chair.
Yes,
Just Georgia, could I have the screen back?
Sure.
Please? Thank you.
Good. Get it?
yep, we're working on it. But we should be able to get it. Thank you.
Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
So questions, comments from commission members?
Go ahead, Janine.
Through the chair, regarding the alternatives analysis. So I guess my interpretation or my reading of the alternatives analysis on alternate route 4. Yes, it's a wider wetland crossing, but if you move over about a ½ an inch to the left, the wetland crossing looks to be about half the width. And while it still is wider of a crossing than alternatives 1, the way I see it, it's a little bit of it's a wider crossing in the campus proper that's already disturbed versus an undisturbed crossing in alternatives 1.
Give me a second to look at it. on my phone. Okay, when we walked that site, there's actually a bit of a kind of a opening pathway along that line from Clinton Street in. Yeah, you follow that.
Like a cart path, Mr. Connors?
Yeah, and it's pretty substantial. It's probably about 12 or 15 feet wide, and it brings you right to that particular location. And as the photographs that I gave you, which we took there, indicate, that area is where there would be literally no trees that would need to be cut across there. Yeah, if you go a little bit to one side, then you do in fact have a little bit smaller of a crossing, but you're going to be doing a lot more ecological alterations.
Okay.
Think
But I mean, is that considered sort of the campus proper that's already disturbed?
No, until you get to the other side of that wetland. Yeah, someplace right about there is where there's a parking lot. So if you looked at the photos in the submission, you can see the photo takes across the wetland area, it's open, and then there's a bit of wooded area that's open before you get to a parking lot that's right there. Maybe if you go to another sheet, you can see where the Koya building is and the parking lot and the difference between that and the edge of. I'll go, there you go. So if you can increase that size, Kim, a little bit. So
Are you
that,
talking about this area, George?
oh, okay, hold on. You see the headquarters building? Go right, start at the upper corner of that, and then simply go straight up the drawing. That's about where it is.
Okay.
And there's a parking lot just across from Koya that you can see. That's where parking lot, but on the other side, you see the little island to just opposite headquarters. And there's a parking lot behind that. Yeah, that's the island. There's a parking lot behind that. And then you see where the wetland line is, and then the first 50 feet. Somewhere between the 50 and the 100 is the edge of the parking lot.
Okay. So that crossing is pretty close to sort of pavement and buildings already.
Where it comes out to pavement building.
Thank you.
May I follow up on that same option 4 then, just for, so I have it clear? Are you saying, Mr. Connors, that there is a cart path kind of something from Clinton Street until you get to the water crossing?
It's most of the way. It's about 2/3 of that way.
So that's a route that has almost no tree removal?
Oh, no, it's not quite wide enough. It said it's about 10 or 12 feet, so it's not quite wide enough.
Okay, but it's, the route you propose has no feet of width. That needs to be completely cleared to 25 feet, right?
Yes.
So it's significantly, it's a shorter route with significantly less tree removal needed.
Well, if you simply say that that one leg is shorter, I'm not sure it's much shorter. If you look at the diagram that's up there and you try and just look at that length of line, it's not much different. And it does go down Clinton Street, another, I think,
Yeah,
1,500 feet. And it has a
Um,
wetland crossing
Yep.
at the Cold Springs Brook.
Yeah, I had one other question before Janine asked hers, and I appreciated Janine's question. You mentioned if the pipe went all the way down Clinton, then down east, that there would be tree removal on East Street. And I
Yes.
think you used the word significant or something. Do you have a count roughly of how many trees would be removed along the edge of East Street?
I think it was 9. There's an arborist report that was submitted. I think it identified either 9 or 11. I don't recall. It's about 2 months ago.
Mhm.
And if you go down East Street, it's very, very narrow. It has a steep slope on the downward on the west side and a steep slope up on the east side. And it's a scenic road. So there'd be a lot of impact according to the arborist. And if you view it, I think you'd agree with that as well. But East Street is very narrow.
And your preferred route, I'm trying to remember, I know somebody overstated dramatically the number of trees that would be removed, but the number you gave was 100-ish?
It was just under 100. I think it was 91,
Okay.
I think.
So if I'm only thinking of trees, and I know that's not the only consideration, it's 100 versus 9 between those two routes?
Well, yeah, it's 100 versus
Okay.
9. But we're planting some to come back, and the ones that are
All right.
along East Street are scenic road trees.
Yep. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, other questions or comments from commission members?
May I add one more thing to that?
Sure.
If we did go down Clinton and East, I think our estimate from Eversource was well over 20 or 30 days that we'd be on that street.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed, go ahead.
I hate to make a joke at this point, but I think people in Hopkinton would put up with 20 days of traffic delay on East Street after all they put up with on Main Street. But back to back to the topic at hand. I concur with what Janine said and what Ted pretty much said. It seems to me that option number 4 is kind of a compromise between what Laborers is hoping for and what Concom might hope for. And it seems to make good use of I'm going to call it a right of way, cart path, whatever, that's there to help minimize the tree cutting that has to go on. So I guess I would like to hear from Mr. Connors why. And I know I know, to be fair, he spent time explaining this already, but I would like more explanation as to why number 4 is not a preferred option. Thank you.
Well, there's several reasons. One is it's a fairly costly endeavor from Eversource that we're paying nothing to get our pipeline to the campus proper and the route we've selected. If we go down Clinton and east, it's $1.7 million, I believe. And if we go down as we're showing that, we have, I think, 1,800 and 1,400, so 3,200 feet versus, I think it's just about a mile on the other one. So we're going to be a substantial portion of that 1.7 million. We also have a directional drilling operation that would be under the culverts on Clinton Street. We don't have any information on the soils in that area. We do have ground penetrating radar information for where we are going under the culvert on our property. And we have a full design of this particular route with topo and everything else, including the wetlands. We go down along that route there, we'd have some more evaluations and designs. We'd have to go back to Eversource for redesign coming into that. The overall aspect of this is these buildings are under construction, feeding them with diesel fuel to run heating, and we anticipated that for all our emergency generators. We didn't anticipate gas would be available to us, but it is. Eversource is willing to put this in. We have a lot of consumption for these buildings, and this would make a lot more environmental sense. And really, time is of the essence as we're coming along with this, completing these buildings. We wish we had thought about it 2 years ago. We didn't. Everything seemed to be working out swimmingly on the project. And as you know, we got really quickly approved from conservation for these buildings, for the utilities that are connecting them all together. And I think that overall, the aspect of gas is a pretty environmentally sensitive thing for the campus and the work. Notwithstanding that Eversource is providing the gas line, we still have about $400,000 worth of work on site to connect buildings and run the individual services once the main line goes through. So it's a fairly costly endeavor.
Yeah, I just have a couple follow-up comments and then I'll open it up to questions from the public. Massachusetts just passed legislation that they're going to be phasing out of natural gas in the coming years. 50% by 2030, up to 100% by 2050. So I know the time horizon there is, a couple decades, but, it just seems to me that, with that kind of directive in Massachusetts, why are we putting new gas lines in to supply this? So that's one. Number two is, they put utility easements in roadways for a reason. And, that's typically where you like to see utilities go. I think I appreciate the alternatives analysis that was put together. I think this is good. But that's kind of, a thought to put out there. And, having said that, let me open it up to comments from the public. And if you can just raise your hand and I'll scroll through.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Hi, David Fajardo. I'm at 88 Clinton Street, which is if you're coming from Front Street, it's the second house kind of affected abutting this. Is it possible for me to be allowed to share my screen too?
I think if we can just give us the narrative, please. I don't, we only have 2 minutes for public comment for each member, so,
Okay, well, Mr. Connors is allowed to share his screen, so I'm just surprised that I'm not. I submitted this to the.
We can share your screen, but you just have to keep it within the allowable time frame, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Let me know when it's okay.
Yep, you should be good to go.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
So this is just, I'll be quick. This is the view. I think plans are somewhat sterile when you look at them in black and white, but this is the view from my house facing the property, or facing where they would put in the gas line, and you can see little white ribbons where they would basically rip down these trees. Or it's been around 100 trees, right? And I'm sort of heartened to hear in the previous discussion about 7 Wayland Street that there was 17 minutes worth of discussion. There's around 3 trees to be replaced. So I'll just note for picture sake, this is what it looks like now. This is an image over at Legacy Farms 12 years later of the gas line going through those woods. This is what it's going to look like, abutting, a handful of houses, and frankly, the same houses that would be affected by 30 days worth of construction on Clinton Street. And then I'll just show you this last. This is in front of my house down Clinton Street. As you said, Chairman, this is previously undisturbed property where a gas line could be, put down the road. So I think the pictures can explain that in terms of what my point of view is, and probably the whole neighborhoods. Mr. Connors made a good point about, it's gonna, every time you ask him about why he wants option 1, it's because he's got to spend, in November, he said 1.25. Now it's $1.75 million of $60 million project, which is about 2% of that project. And he mentioned East Street's a scenic road, and you'd have to drop a few trees there. And so Clinton Street is also a scenic road, in my opinion. So I think the choices are clear. I can stop sharing my screen if you'll tell me how to do that. But I think it's clear, and I have no, ill will to Mr. Connors and Mr. Sabatini. They're doing what they're required to do in terms of who they represent. But the answers to your questions have been all about money and budget and what it would cost Eversource, what it would cost the laborers, what it would cost Mr. Connors' clients. I would submit that the cost to the abutters of this property, that we have much more of a cost impact on our lives. This is really pretty much probably the majority of our wealth at this stage in our lives. And there's a few, seniors that are abutting this that I know, for a fact that it's going to affect them dollar-wise much more than it affects Mr. Connors or Sabatini or anybody else. So I just wanted to state that point. I'd happily give up 30 days worth of construction for a lifetime of, those white and yellow gas pipes running through my backyard. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do we have any other questions, comments from the audience? Let's see. Yes, Mr. Araya.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'd like to thank the commission for all the work that they're doing to try to get this figured out for us. I have a few things to say on this. In terms of the 25-foot wide construction area, I think I mentioned it on a previous call, and I've got a picture, but I know we're running short on time, so I won't show it. But I don't think between the wetland area that's across from me, so I'm 86 Clinton Street. I'm the property right across where the pipeline would be running up my property and then across the back. Where that wetland area is across from my house, I don't think there's 25 feet for there to be a 25-foot construction wide area. So I'm not sure how that would work. I'm not sure if anyone's looked at that. Another point in terms of the 100 trees versus 9 trees discussions, I've also got a picture to show, at least next to my property here, that not all of the trees that would be cut down are tagged with the white ribbons. So I don't know. I would agree that the number maybe isn't the thousands that was initially claimed as an estimate, but I would almost guarantee that it's not 100 either. Additionally, in terms of the permanent damage that's going to be caused to the trees in the wooded area, because that 10-foot wide section won't be able to be regrown, there's no fix there. There's no short-term fix. Whereas if the line, or any long-term fix, whereas if the line was run down Clinton Street to East Street and there are trees cut on East Street, it sounds like those trees would be able to grow back eventually. But again, across from our properties and behind our properties, that'll never grow back. And the next point would be that gas line is getting installed next to and behind properties that are currently valued between $700,000 to $900,000. And I think based on the picture that Mr. Fajardo shared, I don't think that an eyesore like that belongs in a neighborhood with residential housing with property values like that. I think that just, it looks atrocious. And I would never imagine doing that to anyone. If I was in charge of a training camp and I was trying to figure out where to install a gas line, I think that would be the best thing I could do to upset the neighbors that I abut, but it's not my decision, obviously. So in terms of that gas line, it's going to create a permanent negative impact on the property values of the 5 to 7 abutters, however many there are. And so those of us, whether it's 5 to 7, I know we're paying around $12,000 a year in property taxes here in Hopkinton. So we're talking about $50,000 to $70,000 in taxpayer annual funds that are getting spent, that I think that, I just would like to make sure that that's pointed out, because I know that one of the laborers training camp folks mentioned on a previous call about the contributions that they make to the town. I think $50,000 to $70,000 a year is a pretty good contribution as well. The next point being that the money spent by the laborers folks would be recouped over time because of the savings by switching to natural gas, even if we are talking about Massachusetts eliminating natural gas, over a period of decades, they're still going to recoup their money up to that point. So if they do end up going down Clinton Street to East Street and it's going to cost them more money, they're still going to recoup that money. Whereas the destruction to our property values, we're never going to get back.
Right. No, I think we understand the financial metrics that we're talking about here. And just so the audience knows, we don't base our decision on financial impacts to the projects. It's based on environmental and resource area impacts. So I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that.
Well, I do agree.
While we appreciate the discussion, it's not relevant to, the decision that the commission will be making.
All right. Well, I think it needs to be said. We did speak to the town manager as well and voiced our opinion. And so someone needs to be keeping the best interest of the Hopkinton residents in mind, whether it's woodland related or not. It is a valid concern, right? So thank you for your time, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Ms. McDonald, go ahead. Ms. McDonald.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Seeing the map of the before, but looking at this map, it's occurred to me, why didn't they explore going
you're
North
breaking
Mill
up,
Street
ma'am.
with this gas line and down Laurel Canyon Drive. They already have an access on Laurel Canyon. Uh-oh, yeah, we can't hear anything. I think I'm frozen.
You're going again.
Yeah, you're breaking up. We're just getting bits and pieces of your conversation, so.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, Ms. McDonald, you're breaking up, so we'll move along to Mr. Brubaker.
I'm
Through the
having-
chair,
Yes, Ted.
I just, for Ms. McDonald, I think what we heard is, why don't we see an exploration of bringing the pipe down Laurel Canyon Road? I don't know if we want to get an answer to that or not, but I think that was the
Well, I
question.
think you do. Laurel Canyon, the gas line comes from Front Street, which runs it down North Mill Street into Laurel Canyon. So that distance is even longer and more and a narrower street. North Mill Street is, I think, the narrowest street up there in that area.
Okay, Mr. Brubaker, did you have a
Yes,
comment?
I'm at 82 Clinton Street. It's a point that was already raised, but I wonder if we might hear some kind of answer to how the area over the excavation would be maintained in the future and how that possibly squares with the buffer zones that it would, I believe, have to be maintained yearly or at some regular interval and cleared of any vegetation.
Shall I answer that?
Yes, Mr. Connors, go ahead.
So as we indicated, that the 25 feet would be stored on either side, or the gas pipeline would be 10 feet, it would be open, and it would be brush hogged, I think, once a year we talked about. I also indicated that I thought that as secession took place and the shrubs that we planted came in, it would become more like forest litter on the floor of the forest. So I thought that that was adequately answered.
Okay, thank you. Jim, did you have a question? Jim Cirillo?
Thank you, Jeff. Not a question, but a comment, because I didn't chime in before. I'm still very troubled by the proposed route. From a conservation standpoint, think that they should be going up in the road to do this and not over there. I just can't justify it right now because it would be minimal damage. The other thing, by the way, this has nothing to do with conservation, but from a maybe political standpoint, I don't think natural gas will be banned, because I think that wisdom will prevail and people will realize that the electricity comes from burning natural gas to generate the electricity. But anyway, all right. Thank you for the comment on the gas line.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
I just wanted to add quickly into this discussion that I did receive an email from the fire department today, and they are endorsing the fire protection line portion of this project, just for the commission's information.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Kim, for that. Okay. All right, so I think we have four, and Kim, I'm directing kind of this towards you. And, you know, the other commission members, feel free to jump in. So we have four applications open right now on the agenda. So as we previously indicated, the pond application 1741 is tabled based on the outcome of these other four. And then we have the Clinton Street right-of-way, which is basically the installation of the gas line along Clinton Street to the currently proposed ingress. And that's it. So that basically covers the installation of the gas line up to the ingress in the roadway. It appears that the impacts to resource area related to that particular filing is nominal. So, you know, my sense is we could probably vote on that one tonight. And the other one that I think we can vote on is the campus proper fire suppression line. You know, again, there are nominal impacts to resource areas related to that one, and it's all in areas of previously disturbed area, which leaves us with the gas line alternatives that I think we still need to. I think for that one, it needs to be continued. There was a new planting plan that was submitted that we need to go through. I didn't realize that habitat evaluation had been submitted. I didn't see that, so I would like to go through that. But Kim, I guess my point is, you know, you comfortable with voting on the two? The Clinton Street install, 1794, and then the fire suppression line installation in the campus proper area, which is 1798.
Yeah, Jeff, I am. I do have a couple notes for those two projects, in particular for the Clinton Street row. I know that Lucas didn't have the chance to go back out there and confirm some of the wetland lines that are kind of off the road shoulder. So I would just advise the commission not confirm wetland boundaries with that project. I don't think it's going to be a problem because that work is all on the road, and the wetlands there are kind of toe slope. And then in regards to the fire suppression lines, there is some work, you know, in the pond for the directional drilling of those lines. So we're looking at land underwater and bank. But I believe that it is a permittable project with a public benefit. You know, the applicant is going to need to pay special attention to erosion and sedimentation management in that case, specifically erosion and sedimentation controls in the pond, you know, a boom wall while that directional drilling is occurring. So I would just put out to the applicant that, you know, when I write the order and when we're doing kind of construction monitoring, we'll have a special eye on how that construction is being managed in the land underwater. But that being said, I think that both of those projects are seem to be permittable.
May I just
with
make one
conditions.
comment? Please.
Yes, Mr. Connors, go ahead.
There is no impact to the bank. We're going to be drilling well beyond the edge of the bank, underneath the bank. So we're not going to impact the bank in any way, shape, or form. Just as a point of.
Okay.
Jeff, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Ted.
Once upon a time, there was a discussion about whether Eversource would want to have a different size pipe if they went down Clinton Street, because they might want to have enough to service the homes. Is that not an issue? Will the pipe, I'm losing track of, I guess, northwest of that input, the one we're talking about voting on, is that pipe never going to change size regardless of where the gas will go next?
Correct. It will not change size. We sent you a letter back a long time ago. I convened a meeting with the laborers, their contractor, and Eversource. They confirmed that the 4-inch pipeline is more than adequate. It's an intermediate pressure issue more than anything else. And they assured us that they feed several small towns with 4-inch gas lines.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Okay, so I think, you know, I'd like to get a motion. Let me just open up for just comments on voting for these two particular applications from, you know, other members of the commission. Melissa, are you comfortable with this?
I am comfortable voting on those two. I have a comment on the other one, but I'll hold that. So for these two, I'm comfortable with voting on them tonight.
Okay,
with the information we have.
okay, great. Janine,
Yes, I am.
all right. Ed,
So we're voting on the gas line to the potential point that it leaves Clinton Street into laborers training and the fire suppression line.
correct.
So I guess my question would be, if they build to that point where the little red line is now, and then the decision is made that they're going to have to continue down Clinton Street because of whatever, is there any impact by having it stop there at that point? That's all.
Not that I see.
Yeah, I don't think so either, Ed. As long as the pipe is gonna stay the same size, you know, they can truncate it there. And then, you know, they gives, it gives the option of continuing it down Clinton Street to alternative 3. Or continuing it, you know, down Clinton to East Street and coming in on the campus at, you know, a location further down East Street. So it's not going to hamper any future decision on the other, you know, alternatives for the gas line. Okay, so we'll bifurcate the vote both under the, so we're voting under the act and the bylaw for both of these applications. So I'll start off with the Clinton Street Road right of way. If I can get a motion to approve, close and approve the notice of intent as discussed under the Wetlands Protection Act.
This is Ted. I'll make that motion.
And a second, please.
Second, Janine.
And I'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, and we'll make the same, if I can get a motion for the same notice of intent under the bylaw, and this is for the Clinton Street right away.
This is it. I'll make that motion.
And a second, please.
Ted will second.
And the roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right. Moving along to the notice of intent for the fire suppression line. This is 188-1798. If I can get a motion to close and approve the NOI under the Wetland Protection Act.
So
Ted will
moved.
make that, oh, and Ted will second.
All right, and that was Janine who made the motion. We'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. And for 1798, the fire suppression line, to close and approve the notice of intent under the bylaw for the town.
Ted will make that motion.
And a second,
This
Second.
is it. I'll second.
I think Melissa beat you to the punch there, Ed, but
Oh, it was Janine.
go ahead, Janine, we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right. And then if I can get a motion to continue the notice of intent for the gas line, which is 1797. And we will continue 1741, the pond notice of intent. Can I please get a motion? We'll
Can I just make
continue.
a comment first? Jeff?
Yes, go ahead.
On that one, just something I thought of as we were talking right then
Yes.
about the alternatives. One thing that I think might be helpful for continuing is in the impacts to the buffer zones in the various areas. I think it might be helpful to quantify what's in already disturbed area versus not disturbed area. Because right now, when you're looking at the alternatives, the cross country versus what's in Clinton Street are just described as disturbance to the buffer zone. Some of that's in roadway, which I think makes a difference when you're comparing those numbers. Just, I think that just to support, you know, when we do make a decision, what we're basing that on in the alternatives.
No, that makes sense. Kim, Mr. Connors, actually, I'll reach out to you. Does that make sense, Mr. Connors?
Yeah, it does, as long as I have clarity on that a disturbed area is not a impact.
That the disturbed area is not, I'm sorry, can you say that again, please?
That the disturbed area is not an impacted area.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you go down through the campus proper where it's already roads or driveways or whatever, we don't count that as a disturbance under riverfront. And is that the same as?
I guess maybe I'm looking at the alternatives analysis and there's the column of impacts.
Yes.
So maybe disturbance is the wrong word. It's just listed as impact. So maybe it's impact to developed area. I don't know.
Right. When I read your code, your regulations, it doesn't seem that you differentiate between, let's say, a pipeline going down an existing road and your 50 and 100-foot buffer. Is that the case, or is it not an impact?
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I can help, Mr. Connors. I think, you know, the commission evaluates these things on a case-by-case basis. So having an understanding of which impacts in the buffer zone are undisturbed areas and which impacts in the buffer zone are disturbed, meaning, you know, pavement
Right.
or lawn, would help, you know, help them be able to evaluate these alternatives kind of apples for apples.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, because the way it's looking, the way it's outlined here is, it's just, you know, impact to the buffer zone, BVW, bank, you know, riverfront, and it's not identifying, you know, which of those impacts are previously disturbed. It's just, you know, blanket disturbance.
Initially,
Yeah.
we had that differentiated, but I understand what you want now, and I'm glad it's in the record.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, Kim.
While we're on this topic, I also wanted to ask Mr. Connors, in looking at this chart, the preferred alternative is shown with no impact to riverfront area, but the Clinton Street alternative is shown with riverfront area impacts, but both of those alternatives cross Cold Spring Brook in paved areas. So I was just wondering why the difference in the, you know, riverfront area impacts there.
Okay, the answer to that is that, as I indicated, we have what we call the cross country, and that ends at the Maloney building. And then we have the campus proper, which is out where all the driveways and things are. So we evaluated the cross country section, that section that comes off of Clinton and to the back of the Maloney building. That's why that is 0, because there's no riverfront there.
So for a complete project, I would recommend that in any future analysis, the entire project's impact be evaluated. You know, we
Down
know that
further, you'll see
even,
that. We did it for the. I understand what you want now. Understand.
Okay. Yeah, so got it. Okay.
When are you continuing to?
When would you like us? Our next meeting is the 7th and the following is the 28th of February.
7th, please.
All right, if I can get a motion to continue both of those notices of intent, 188-1741, the pond, and 188-1797, the gas line, continued to February 7th.
Pat will make that motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
And the roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Connors.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, the trails both have been continued, 1792 and 1649 to the 7th. So we'll jump back into the work session items, and I think we're at 117 Ash Street. This is a request for a certificate of compliance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff, I can speak to this.
Sure, that'd be great.
Well,
Thank you,
let
Kim.
me just pull up the as-built.
I'm just
Okay,
noting
so-
that I'm here. This is Georgia. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Georgia. Thank
Good
you.
evening, Mrs. Hall.
So Mrs. Hall had joined us at the last meeting with a request for a determination of applicability for an addition at this site. At that time, Anna had realized that there was no certificate of compliance for the original construction of the building. So this is an oldie. It's a single family home. There's a wetland kind of in the southern boundary down here. And so the 50-foot buffer is right about here and the 100's here. Lucas went out and found some minor comments. So I can pull them up. There is an unpermitted deck in the 50-foot no build. It is on existing lawn. We are not sure when it was constructed.
I'll just add that that was built when we bought, that was already on the house when we bought it in 2001.
I figured it was kind of an older improvement. There's a little bit of yard waste along the lawn and tree line, Lucas pointed out. So, we would just request that you be mindful of that. If you're, you have lawn clippings or whatnot, they should not be disposed of along this area. And then I think, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but were all the PIBs installed out here?
They were all in the location shown except, let's see.
That fourth one was
The
now put on.
the
actually.
westernmost.
Yeah, the most western one was
Yeah.
was put on. Joe Marcant, J Marcant organization put that up. So so the fourth one is now up.
Okay.
So that's
and
all I had.
All right, and then there were some minor deviations on locations of, or distances from structures of the wetland, we're talking feet, in most of the cases, a few feet. All those are depicted accurately on the as-built. Joe, Kim,
Yes, they appeared to be from my observations.
okay. All right, so Kim, can we go, are you comfortable with going ahead and voting on this certificate of compliance for this project in the current condition?
Yep, I am.
All right, if I can get a motion to approve the COC for 117 Ash Street,
Ted will make that motion.
and a second,
Second, Janine.
and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted's an aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, 6 Leon's Way. This is another COC request. This was the pool and patio edition. This one looks like the patio was installed a little bit larger than what was permitted, but it was enlarged away from the wetland area, Kim.
Yep, that's correct. So the original approved limits of the patio were probably right about here where my mouse is. So this area was kind of expanded. As you had mentioned, it's outside of the 100-foot buffer. Joe also found that some PIBs were flush with the ground. I think they're in this location back here. And I do want to note, the applicant also reported that he installed a sand type filter for the pool, which is significantly more environmentally friendly.
Okay. And then they have a dry well on site where they're discharging pool water, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, questions or comments from the commission on this one?
Just really quickly, will they be fixing the PIBs that are flush? Did we approve flush with the ground PIBs?
I guess, Joe, could you elaborate on your comment on what you found out there?
Yeah, the PIBs were mostly attached to rocks along that slope. And then the easternmost three, I was looking for some kind of a stake in the ground, which is, normally what they were, but they were flush with the ground. And I don't know whether the order specified that they had to be on stakes. But I initially didn't see them. The property owner had to point them out to me. But I think when the vegetation, once the vegetation starts growing in, those are going to disappear. Be really tough to see.
Yeah, so given what we've been seeing with PIBs being ignored, I'd love that to be fixed. I don't know if it should hold up a COC vote, but it scares me if we give approval and then say, now will you please fix that?
And
Yeah, we
through the
could-
chair, just to note, those three are all greater than 50 feet from the resource area.
Okay. So we can vote on it contingent upon kind of resetting those on a post rather than flush with the ground.
Yeah, we can do that.
And
Through
then
the
do we
chair,
want them,
this is Ari.
at the 100-foot buffer, or did we agree to have those at that location? I don't recall.
The chair,
Yeah,
I believe that the commission intended for the area in the back to revegetate, and that was the reason why they were moved up.
got it. Right,
Through-
okay.
Through the chair, this is Ari.
Yes, yeah.
Hey, there was an order of conditions on this property when it was built in 2021 that was previously approved with this PIB without any medallions whatsoever. So to now put a condition that these medallions have to be installed in such a manner is a little an overstretch when it was previously approved last year without any medallions whatsoever.
I don't think. we've
It wasn't,
ever-
I don't think it was approved without any medallions whatsoever. When we approved this most recent work, there was a request to put those in.
It was something that I offered that wasn't, it wasn't specified how they were going to be put on or affixed. But
I think you can see where the issue is, though. I mean, they're flush with the ground. And that area is supposed to revegetate. So once it starts revegetating and the grass grows, you're not going to be able to see them. So I think we would just request that, a stake be put in the ground there, a post, and then the medallion be affixed to the post at those locations. I don't think that's a big ask.
I think the where they were actually placed, if you look at the PIB, if you look at the sorry, not the PIB, but the riprap wall, they were placed just to the north. Yeah, right in that area there, correct. So that will be yeah, I think that's a little more accurate. It's in an area with inside where the grass is going to be clipped. Is there a photo? Is there a photo that's kind of zoomed out showing where the vegetation is growing naturally?
So I think we're okay with, the locations there. But what we're asking is that they be put on a post at those locations rather than be set on the ground.
Okay. Well, the location where they are now, that it's set on the, yeah, right there, like that's a good photo. If to the right, or to the, I guess it would be kind of northeast. This whole area is going to continue to be mowed. It's not, they're not being placed within where it's going to grow natural. This is not a growing natural area. This was undisturbed during all of construction.
This is Dan McIntyre.
Yes,
I
Mr.
think
McIntyre.
I think the question is, can we shift these back on a post near the tree line rather than in the lawn? Where they were on the original approved plan?
Through the chair,
Yes, Kim.
I know that this was discussed extensively during the original permitting process. You know, if I had a little bit of time, I know I can pull up what.
Yeah,
you
why
know,
don't,
what the
we
commission
just table it?
decided.
Why don't we table it till the next meeting, Kim, so we can just do a little bit of research on what exactly it was we were looking for, rather than speculating or guessing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I can pull kind of the meeting minutes up and figure out why, you know, what the intent was here with the commission. So we all kind of have an understanding of why the commission voted the way they did.
This wasn't, these medallions were not something the commission asked for. This was something that I had volunteered once the plan was shot down at 2 separate meetings.
Okay, well, let's look into it, and we'll get down to, exactly what it was that we
And
were
if
looking
it's-
for at the next meeting. Okay.
And if it's unspecified, unwritten, is that enough to approve it as is?
Well, we have the meeting. It's going to be on record. We have a video record and we have our meeting minutes, so we can check into both of those.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just continue this one to the next meeting. Thank you. Okay, 234 Hayden Road. This is a request for a tree removal. Kim?
Yeah. Bear with me for a second. So this is 234 Hayden Row. So tonight we have both the certificate of compliance to review for the site, and also the applicant is requesting the removal of 14 trees. I have created a little sketch, and I went out last week and took a look and kind of sketched the locations of the trees are approximate just based on us eyeing it. We identified the species and the DBH and the approximate location. The applicant feels that these trees are risk trees due to the proximity of the home. If the commission recalls, this is one where this was part of the subdivision of Hayden Row, where the commission evaluated cumulative buffer zone impacts. And so the commission went back and forth with the builder quite a bit about the size of the home and the total impacts to the buffer zone. So that's why we have the house and the deck and the lawn very close. That being said, in looking at the trees, I look for basic signs of stress. Is the root system compromised? Is it a split trunk? Is there visible branches that are already down or dead or cracking? Is there decay at the base? So I did not see any of that in these trees, with the exception of the tree number 5, which is a white ash. It's fully compromised by bittersweet. So that one is already partially deceased and probably will come down. That being said, all of the trees do have shallow roots. Most of them are red maples. There's a lot of facultative wetland vegetation there, and there's obviously high groundwater in this area. But other than the shallow roots, I didn't see any other obvious signs. of unhealth. That being said, I'm not a certified arborist. I'm just dangerous. And I can show you some photos as well of the house in the area. So these rocks are the edge of the lawn area. And so you can see the house, the lawn, and then the trees. And they did already have a tree fall in the last storm, kind of a smaller DBH tree. Yeah, if anybody has any more specific questions.
Yeah, I'll just open it up to the commission, get your comments, thoughts.
Jeff,
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
question, thoughts. Kim, you're showing a lot of photos that seem to be invasives of one form or another, climbing all these trees. We haven't seen this in the summer, but do a lot of them look like they're not necessarily dead, but they're beyond, saving because of the invasives? And then the other question is, what is the request exactly? They want, the applicant's requesting approval for these trees in conjunction with a certificate of compliance? Or if so, why isn't the applicant submitting, doing it the normal way, requesting trees? Thank you.
So good question, Jim. So first, in regards to all the vines that you're seeing, there is a lot of poison ivy out there on that site. A lot of the vines that you're seeing is actually poison ivy. Some of the vines that you're seeing are bittersweet. If left unmanaged, there will be a bittersweet problem out there, and all of the trees will be swallowed by bittersweet. So it's kind of it's probably 60-40 out there, 60 poison ivy, 40 bittersweet. In regards to the methodology, the COC requests and the tree requests are separate. The applicant is making the tree request because he feels as if all of these trees are risk trees. And so he would like to move through the exemption process that we can do for risk trees. But I've elevated it to the commission because I felt that it was beyond, my regulatory scope to approve 14 trees administratively.
Thank you. I see now that they're two separate items. Thanks, Kim.
All right, other questions, comments?
Wait, hold on, Jeff.
Yep.
I think I see there are two items, but they have the same file number.
Yeah, it's the same, it's the same site.
I get that. So we have to act on the tree removal before we could ever act on the COC. And then wouldn't we want, if we decided to allow some tree removal, wouldn't we then want to wait for the COC until that's done? It doesn't seem like we'd issue a COC until whatever they're asking for is done. Thanks.
Through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
I know historically when we've brought tree removal requests to the commission, if there was an associated file number, so the commission could reference back similar plans, that's what we've used. So it may have just been how administratively we listed it on the agenda, but typically if we have a previous file, we try to reference the file number for the commission's resource.
Right, yep, thank you, Anna.
Okay, thanks. But does it seem like we would, if we were going to approve any tree removal, that we would not vote on a certificate of compliance until after that was done?
Kim, I'll let
The
you
chair?
answer, but yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It would depend, Jim, on if you felt like the tree removals were an exempt activity or if they required a notice of intent.
Okay, so I feel that they are not an exempt activity, just so you know.
So
I would not want to I wouldn't vote for certificate of compliance until if and when tree removal is done, put it that way.
To the chair,
Yes.
I guess just an observation, looking at the pictures, this sort of seems like typical wetland conditions that you're gonna get if you build next to a wetland. So I mean, is this, I guess, any more compromised or a concern than any other area of a wetland?
Yeah, I
And
think.
kind of what you
it-
get when you build next to a wetland, right?
Right, yeah, I think the
Wetland tree conditions?
I think from, the concern is the trees, because they have the shallow root systems, since they're in the wetland, that there's the potential for the trees to fall on the house. So, there could be liability associated with that. Having said that, we raised this question when the original builder, put the house in, and we told them, there's not going to be very much yard. You're going to be very close to the wetland system. Maybe you should think about making the house smaller. He didn't want to do that.
Yep.
So now here we are in the position of, the homeowner has bought the house, the builder, developer is gone, and, they're looking at trees on the property that they want to have removed because there may or, may not be a liability associated with them. So I don't, Ken, maybe the way to go here is just to have an arborist. Since there's only one dead tree, based on your observation, is to have an arborist kind of weigh in on the structural integrity of the trees and the root system.
Yeah, I would agree with that approach.
Jeff, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Last one. Kim, so with respect to invasives, whether poison ivy or bittersweet, are some of those trees savable by eradicating those invasives? Or would we be able to know that?
I think just the one, tree number 5 is the one that's
mean,
really being affected by bittersweets, but I think it's already too gone. The other ones
yeah, no, I
are
get
okay right now.
I get that. They're just if there are, if the vines aren't all the way up to the canopy, then eradication of those vines is a way to go. That's all. Right? Okay, thanks.
Jeff, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
I think we're all kind of on the same page. This is just a frustrating request to me. From the beginning of this project, we were very clear that there's the border. You cannot do anything on the other side of the border. This new homeowner came to us and asked if there could be some movement in that border, and we said no. The one tree that Kim identified, if we're doing anything with that, I would say it's being cut off. I don't know what our standard is, 10 feet above the ground, so it can still be woodpecker habitat. But this is a very frustrating request to me. This is what you get when you build on that lot, just like you said, Jeff.
Nope. I agree. It's very frustrating.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
So just looking at the pictures, the backyard is one big vine field, whether it's PI or bittersweet. I'd be more worried about the bittersweet because I think PI and trees have existed together for a long time. But bittersweet definitely will do them in. And there's like clouds of trees out there that look like they're buried in bittersweet. And it seems to me that if we're going to contemplate this at all, that there should be a plan in place to deal with the invasives.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is I feel like these are, issuing a COC is kind of a separate issue from the trees. I'm looking at it as two completely different issues.
I think so too, Melissa, but you know, it's a
So-
new homeowner. They're not selling the house. I don't think it's really gonna put anyone in a you know, time sensitive situation if we hold off on issuing the COC would be my kind of opinion. Kim, does that
I was just about to ask, Anna, was it Dave Claro that's the applicant on the COC?
Correct, the builder.
Okay.
okay?
So yeah, it's a situation where the builder is trying to kind of, you know, close out his obligations.
Because I kind of feel like we have a hard time getting builders to close their COCs, and this builder is actually trying to close it out and not leave the homeowner in a situation where he's walking away without finishing his piece of it. So I kind of feel like if the builder is asking for the COC and trying to finish his task, then I wouldn't want to hold him up from that. And if it's the homeowner, it's not the builder asking to take the trees down. It's the homeowner, right? So it's, if he wanted to like, say he was doing a modification to his original application and expand the lawn and take down the trees, then I think that would be a different story.
I see them as separate too, Melissa.
Yeah, I do now. I see them as separate.
All
Through the
right.
chair?
Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Sorry, I do see that the homeowner is on the line. I wasn't sure if they wanted to say anything.
Hi, it's Praveen. Can I talk?
Hi, absolutely. Go ahead,
Hi.
sir.
Thank you for first of all approving us for the initial approval plan so that we could come into this house. So the COC application, as you know, is through David, and we do hope that you could consider moving that part. The tree issue, you could see from the live pictures how one tree fell on the property, and that's both cause destruction to the property and it can cause damage to. Thank God my family members were not there at that time when the tree fell. Otherwise, you know, if my kids were there, it would have been a problem. So that discussion can be moved on if you want further concrete kind of information about the type of tree. We could work on that, but and to be honest with you, I want to do that as a separate process and not mix it up with the COC. Even when I sent the initial email to Kim, I did mention this. And you can go through the Lucas recommendations, and everything, you know, was done according to what Lucas wanted for the COC. And
Okay, so I think let's table the tree piece of it for a second. I think we all agree that it's a separate, you know, two separate things that we can go forward with the, you know, taking a look at the request for the COC from the builder. Joe, did it look like all the conditions were met? Are there any outstanding issues from your standpoint?
Yeah, regarding the COC application, couple of comments. First off, there was a comment on the Form 8A that any deviations from the original design are noted on the as-built plan. It's sort of a generalized statement, didn't actually state any deviations, and there's nothing actually noted on the as-built. So I don't know if it's safe to assume there were no deviations, but that was not really clearly stated anywhere. Most of the site is pretty well stabilized. There are some areas along the stone wall at the back where there's still some fairly bare soil, but didn't see any significant erosion. There's a line of rocks that photo shows well. That could function as a PIB. There are no PIB markers. There was a approved, apparently, plan for a fence along the PIB or along the limit of work, which was not installed. at the time I looked at it. Didn't see any disturbance beyond that stone wall, beyond the limit of work. However, there are some areas where there's some trash and debris, construction debris that could be picked up just beyond the stone wall. There's also that black plastic pipe, which not sure where that's coming from. All roof runoff was supposed to be directed to infiltration, so I'm not sure what that is. Maybe the applicant can explain that. As I said, there were no notes, no PIB label on the site plan.
Was that requested in the were PIB's medallions requested in the original submittal, Joe?
Yes, condition number 60 was for PIBs.
So we have this, so we can post it, as soon as.
I would just have I would have the builder do that since it's his responsibility.
Okay.
And then, because you're gonna need to put, he's gonna have to put posts up. Doesn't look like there are any trees along that PIB, it's just rocks. So he's gonna need to put posts up at, what interval do we look for, Kim? Every 50 feet?
Typically about 30 to 40.
Every 30 to 40 feet, yeah.
So was there a reason there's not a post rail fence as was indicated on the plan?
So let me tell you, so the initial builder offered a post and rail. We had to, then we had to, make some changes in the interior of the house. And then later on, the builder, we came into an agreement that we'll do fence later on our own, and the builder would not do that. That's where we stand. And this was not the right time for us to do the fence as well. You could see how the tree fell. If we had installed a fence, it would have damaged the fence immediately. And so that's a good thing that we did not do, and maybe in the future we will do it, but we couldn't do it now. So that's why I asked him what the other alternative would be. She said rocks, so I basically hired a contractor to place rocks.
All right, so I think we just need to reinforce that barrier with, if they're not gonna put the fence in, we need to put the posts in with the medallion, every 30 or 40 feet, as Kim had indicated. And, again, it's the builder's responsibility to do that, in my view, not yours. And then I think the other big one was that outlet pipe there on the corner. What exactly is that? Where is it coming from?
So I asked the builder, it's not a roof runoff. It's basically a French drain, it's called. There's no water that's going to come from it. It's, I think, out of habit, the contractor has placed it, and it goes somewhere to the foundation, I guess, or something, and it can be pulled off or cut off. He said there's no use of that. So there's no water that's never going to come from that. So,
Is that on the as-built plan, Kim? Do you know?
I
Through
don't
the chair,
believe it is.
through the chair,
Yes.
I don't believe it is.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Yep.
I mean, I think that at a minimum needs to be shown on the as-built. And where it's going underground. So if it's a French drain around the house that's discharging out to that area, whatever it is, I don't know. But, I think we need to identify that, or the contractor needs to. So I guess the point is, there's a couple more things that need to be taken care of before the COC can be closed out, sir.
So you want me to have the contractor put the French drain on the as-built plan, is that right?
Yep.
Or if you're able to just cut that out, is that enough for you? If the contractor says just remove it.
Well, I mean, if it's there, he must have put it there for a reason. So, we just need to understand that and show it on the plan.
And
And then the,
quote
and then
for
the
the-
medallions along the property, along that back boundary where the rocks are.
okay.
Through the
So-
chair,
Yes, Kim?
I'm assuming the PIB location should also be shown on the as-built plan, correct?
Yep. Yep, that's not on there.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they just have the proposed post and rail fence. Okay, yeah.
Through the chair.
Right.
Yep, Joe,
There's
go ahead.
there's also a underground propane tank, which looks like it's very close to the edge of the 100-foot buffer, which isn't shown on the plan on the as-built.
Okay, so that needs to be added as well.
And then should, Jeff, the Form 8A list the deviations, which would include the post and rail? Or a note on the as-built that it was originally a post and rail and it's been replaced by that?
I think if we have the PIB just identified, that should be sufficient, right, Kim? Do we need to, I don't think we need to put a note that it was originally gonna be a fence and it
I-
got changed.
I don't think we do. But Jim's point is valid. I mean, typically we require the engineer or PLS who stamps the as-built plans to write a sentence describing the deviations, which hasn't really occurred here. There are some other site deviations, like there's a slight change in the configuration of the driveway. So it would be nice.
I think to make it clear for future generations that there ought to be something to explain that or to show that.
Yep, that makes sense, Jim. Okay, so a little bit more work needs to be done to close out the COC. I guess for the tree removal, do we want to, does the commission agree that we should have an arborist take a look at that? And just evaluate the integrity of those trees? And to come back to us with a report. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Makes sense, Jim? Yep.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Praveen's wife. So I just wanted to ask, there was this poison ivy that fell on our roof. It's down now. So what can we do about it? Because we have kids and they're going to play out and there's a poison ivy right on the backyard. So what's the best way to go ahead? Because like Kim mentioned, like don't step on that. I didn't even know it was a poison ivy that fell off. And so
I would just put like some gloves on and just take it back into the woods and throw it back there.
It's like a 50-foot tree, which is wrapped with poison ivy.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have to cut it up into sections, you could do that with like a bow saw.
So is this
Not, not sure what else to tell you. Well, you could hire someone to do it. I wouldn't recommend that. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy to cut it yourself and then just throw it back there. But I would definitely wear gloves and don't touch it.
Yeah, and this is what is the problem on the backside. If you leave trees that can fall on the roof or cause some damage to somebody. And if Kim can show the other picture where it was going to Mr. Taylor's house, it was almost, I mean, it can fall anytime into his property. That's what happened. So if we don't take action, this will happen.
Yeah, I like we said, if we can get an arborist to just take a look at those.
Yeah, and can we show pictures of the thing, the posts with the medallion, and then have the site plan emailed to you, and then that should be enough? Or do we have to meet again for the COC? I mean, those are the two things that are pending.
I think as long as it addresses all of the items that we just discussed for the COC, you don't need to show up for the meeting. We can, if they're on the plan, then and it looks good, we can just vote, as a commission, and you don't need to be present.
Okay. Perfect.
Through the chair,
Yes, Kim.
I just want to clarify for the applicant's benefit that a quote from a tree removal contractor is not the same as an evaluation from a certified arborist. You want to look for that certified arborist title with the stamp and the license number. Yeah, just.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's great clarification. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, good point, Kim.
Okay, any other questions on this? All right, thank you for working with us on this, sir. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yep, okay.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right, and then the draft annual town report. That looked good to me. Any questions or comments from anyone?
I just have a comment. Members on the commission served. There's also the Trails and Management Committee. There's another word in there that I'm on. The Trails Commission and Management Committee.
TCMC.
Yeah, thank you. That's why we use the acronym, I guess.
I'll edit it. Jeff also pointed out to me today that I need to add, Janine, that you achieved your MACC certificate this year. So I will be adding that as well.
I didn't even think of that.
All right, it looked good to everyone else.
Yeah, and by the way, I think TCMC is Tick Muck.
Okay.
I think I need a haircut.
I was gonna say, look at this great photo of us I got to put in the report this year.
We were not forewarned that that photo was gonna be taken. No time for haircut there, Ed.
Carrie always misses the good meetings.
Yeah.
And we're also very thankful that Anna didn't give anybody COVID at that meeting.
Right, because you got it right after that, right?
I did.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, okay. All right, Kim, any public forum requests?
None.
All right, I think we're good then, unless you guys have anything else. All right, a motion to adjourn the meeting
I'll make that motion too.
and a second,
I'll second it.
and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right, everyone, have a great night. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Nate.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kim.
Bye-bye.